Hello class. So in this video, we are going to discuss the first chapter, which is functions. For this chapter, we will be mentioning a lot of topics na siguro dapat ay na-discuss na natin before. So if you are not confident with your pre-calculus such as topics sa algebra and analytic geometry, so medyo kailangan natin silang reviewin. Now also, in this video, magkakaroon din tayo ng konting introduction with calculus. So let us start now. Now let us first define what calculus is. So calculus, simply put, this is the branch of mathematics that deals with derivatives and integrals and its properties and kung ano yung pasikot-sikot dito sa mga topics na to. So to be specific, derivatives and integrals of functions. So that's why our first chapter is a review on functions. Now, there are two types of calculus, two main types. That's differential calculus and integral calculus. So for the first semester, we will be focusing on differential calculus. So differential calculus, so in mathematics, this is the subfield of calculus that studies rates at which quantities change, as opposed to integral calculus. It is the study kasi of the area beneath a curve. So for this sem, we'll be focusing on rates at which quantities change. And these rates at which quantities changed, we can describe this through the following. Ayun nga, we're going to discuss the derivatives of a function. So yung derivative na to, we will have an introduction muna about what a derivative is in the next chapters. And then we will be concentrating on understanding or trying to understand what derivatives are and what are their applications. So, when we reach the point na application na yung gagawin natin, we will be applying differential calculus to optimization problems and rates of change. As I've said last time in our orientation, any math subject naman na inaaral natin dito sa College of Engineering, the purpose is to apply it in real-world na mga phenomena. So in this case, the phenomena at which differential calculus can be used to model 2 ay mga optimization problems and rates of change. So kung nalulula kayo sa mga numbers and mga variables, etc., so sana ma-inspire tayo na makaget through doon sa theory na part because at the end of at certain chapters and at the end of the semester, we are going to apply the theory naman. Now, we will proceed na to discussing yung content ng chapter natin, which are functions. So, hopefully, na-discuss din to during your senior high school or your junior high school days. Familiar na tayo sa term na function siguro kasi ginagamit na natin siya even before pa. However, most of the time, na-associate natin si functions with equations. Now, tama naman yun. No? When we say a function, legit naman na ina-associate natin siya with equations. But for this chapter, we're going to discuss what is the formal definition ba of a function. So according to this definition, functions daw are mathematical expressions that assigns each member of a set X exactly one member of set Y. So kung ganun yung case, we have two sets daw. We have set X, kung saan kinukuha natin yung value of one variable and another set Y, kung saan doon naman natin kinukuha yung isa pang variable. And ang bilin dito sa definition is that each member of set X ay exactly assigned lang to one member of set Y. So, ibig sabihin, if that is the case, ang definition pala natin ng function ay a value coming from set X and another value coming from set Y. So ano to? This is what we call as an ordered pair. So if we are still familiar with the topic sets. So this is what we call as an ordered pair. So formally, we can now define a function to be a particular kind of a set of ordered pairs. So that is our formal definition of what a function is. Now kapag i-connect natin siya sa equation na, the simplest definition, kasi ganito yan lahat ng function, pwede natin, or functions, we can express it as an equation. but not all equations can be considered as a function. Now, how do we know if an equation is a function? So, tingnan lang natin tong description na to sa baba. So, the simplest definition daw is an equation will be a function if for any value of x in the domain of the equation will yield exactly one value lang ng y natin. So, similar pa rin naman dito sa definition natin sa nasa taas. So, ibig sabihin nito, kung meron kang value ng x, dapat isa lang yung value ng y natin for that. Hindi pa pwede na for one value of x, dalawa yung value ng y or tatlo yung value ng y natin. Now, to understand this more, let's look at this arrow diagram. So, ang tawag natin dito is an arrow diagram. And this represents a function. Now, paano siya naging function? So, take note, our definition of function assigns each member of set x to exactly one member of set y. So, if this is your set x, at yung set x mo, ang laman niya ay numbers 1, 2, 3, and this is your set y, which is ang laman niya is a, b, c, then, these are two sets, and if inassign natin yung value ng x to only one value of y, we can create a function. So, in this case, nakita natin that 1 is assigned to a, 2 is assigned to b, and 3 is assigned to c. So, therefore, this is a function because lahat ng x natin is only assigned to one value of y. Now, how do we express this as an equation? So, to express this as an equation, gawin natin siya as a set of ordered pairs. So, how do we express this as a set of ordered pairs? Let's say, for example, define natin as f. And this is equal to a set of ordered pairs na merong content or members that is 1a, 2b, and then 3c. So, this is now our equation of this function na ginawa natin ng arrow diagram. Now, how about this one? This is the second arrow diagram na meron tayo. So, this is still two sets. We have set x and set y. And yung set x, numbers pa rin yung laman. And yung set y ay letters pa rin yung laman natin. Now, the question is this a function or not? So, himayin natin. We can see that 1, which is a member of x, is assigned to a. We have 2, which is a member of x, is assigned to b. And we have 3, a member of x, which is assigned to also b. Now, is this a function or not? Now, remember from our definition, ang sabi lang naman dun is kailangan yung x natin is assigned to only one member of y. So, if that is the case, then this is a function. So, bakit siya function? Kasi, isa lang yung value ng 3 natin. For example, if x is equal to 2, ang value ng y mo ay isa lang, that is b. Now, if your x is equal to 3, ang value ng y mo is also b. Isa lang din. So, therefore, pasok to dun sa definition natin ng function. So, therefore, this arrow diagram is also a function because there is exactly one arrow from each element in x. So, kung visually titingnan natin siya to determine kung function siya, as long as isang arrow lang yung nanggaling from our set x, it is a function. Now, how about itong nasa baba na to? Still, it's a function, it's a set x. Then we have another set y. But this time around, si 1, naka-assign siya sa a. Si 2, naka-assign siya sa b. And si 3, naka-assign siya both to b and to c. Now, this time around, hindi na to function. Why? Because yung at x is equal to 3, hindi lang nag-iisa yung value ng y natin. And that is our definition, di ba? Kailangan all values of x mo, naka-assign siya sa isang value ng y. But this time around, at x is equal to 3, meron kang value that is 3, meron kang value ng y that is b, and you also have a value of for 3 that is c. So therefore, this is not a function. So ganun lang natin ina-identify if an equation is a function or not, or if a set of ordered pairs is a function or not. So let's take a look at these examples. Now that we know the definition of the functions, so what you can do, and this is pwede rin natin gawin to in all of our lecture videos. Kapag may examples, you can pause the video and then try muna nating sagutan. No, I suggest ganun yung gawin. So sagutan muna natin, and then at pag nasagutan natin lahat, i-play natin ulit yung video. Pagkatapos, check natin kung tama yung mga sagot natin. Yan. So, let's start with number 1. So, for number 1, the function is, or the equation is y is equal to x squared plus 1. Now, is this a function or not? So, this is a function. Bakit? Because at any value of x, laging isa lang yung value ng y natin. Hindi naman mangyayari na for one value of x, dalawa yung value ng y na makukuha natin. So, let's say for example, try natin mag-substitute. Let's say at x is equal to 1, what will be the value of y? If we do that, if we substitute x is equal to 1, we'll arrive at y is equal to x squared plus 1. Y then is equal to 1 squared plus 1. So, y natin is equal to 2. So, nakita natin, single value lang ng x natin, that's x is equal to 1, and nag-yield siya only to one value of y, which is 2. So, this goes on kahit na anong value ng x yung ilagay natin. So, therefore, number 1 is a function. So, this is a function. Next, number 2. Clear lang natin. Next, number 2. So, for number 2, it is a set of ordered pairs. So, f daw is equal to 1a, 2b, 3c. So, obviously, this is a function also. Why? Because lahat ng x natin, that's 1, 2, and 3, they're assigned only to one value of y, and that is a, b, and c, respectively. Next, number 3. We have y squared is equal to x plus 1. For this one, ganun din, kung paano natin ginawa yung number 1, ganun natin gawin tong number 3. Para mas maging malinaw sa atin, let's try to substitute a value of x dito sa equation natin. Let's say at x is equal to 3, let's try to find the value of y. Tingnan natin, for one value of x, kung dalawang y or more than one na value ng y yung makukuha natin. So if we do that, we have y squared is equal to x plus 1. We'll have y squared is equal to 3 plus 1. We have y squared is equal to 4. We take the square root. Yung y natin will be plus minus, struggle magbura dito eh. Plus minus, plus minus 2. So, ibig sabihin, at one value of x, that is x is equal to 3, we have two values of y, and that is y is equal to 2, and y is equal to negative 2. So, therefore, may dalawang ordered pair tayo just from one value of x. And that is, the first ordered pair is 3, 2, and 3, negative 2. So, if this is the case, for one value of x, dalawang value of y yung na-assign natin, therefore, this is not a function. So, number 3 is not a function. Next, number 4. So, for number 4, we have f is equal to 1a, 2a, and 3b. Now, this is a function also. Why? Because yung x natin, they're only assigned each member of our set x is only assigned to one value of y. Tama, parehas yung sa 1a saka 2a parehas a. Pero ang hindi naman mahalaga sa atin yun. Ang mahalaga is kung yung x natin sa isa lang siya naka-assign. So, in this case, si 1 naka-assign siya sa a, si 2 naka-assign siya sa A lang din, and si 3 naka-assign siya sa B lang din. So therefore, this is a function. Next, lastly, we have another set of ordered pairs. We have f is equal to 1a, 2b, and 1c. Now, this time around, this is not a function. Bakit? Because for a single value of x, that is at x is equal to 1, dalawa yung value ng y natin. And that is y sub 1 is equal to a, and the other one is y sub 2 natin is equal to c. So therefore, this is not a function. So that is how we determine if an equation is a function. Yeah, next naman is the function notation. So if sure na tayo ng isang equation ay isang function, then we can express it in a notation na mas madali natin maintindihan and mas madaling gamitin for solving purposes. So let's take a look at the following function. Y is equal to 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. So using function notation, we can write this as any of the following. So instead of using y, pwede nating itong palitan ng ganito. Actually, ang pinaka ginagamit is this one, kasi letter f. and we're talking about functions. So f parenthesis x tapos equal dun sa function natin which is 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. So paano natin to binabasa? We read this as function of x is equal to 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. Now, pwede rin gumamit tayo ng ibang variable aside from f kasi syempre, in calculus, we will be dealing with a lot of functions. Hindi lang isang function, we will have systems of functions and equations. So therefore, we will need a lot of variables din. So yung common na ginagamit aside from f is g. Tapos h, r, w, y. So depende sa kung gaano karami yung kailangan natin. So binabasa natin siya yun nga, f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 5x plus 3, etc. Now, aside from this variable, this letter na pinapalitan natin, minsan, depende sa equation or sa function or sa dinidescribe natin na phenomena, yung variable mismo natin na x, pinapalitan natin. So, let's say for example, instead of using x, for that certain situation, ang ginagamit mo halimbawa ay time. So, mas madali na gamitin yung variable na t. So, kung ganun yung case, ang equation natin or function notation natin will be f of t. So, let's say for example, yung pa rin yun. So, 2t squared minus 5t plus 3. So, this is also a function notation. Yan. So, now, we're going to discuss how we evaluate a function. And makikita natin, using the function notation or expressing an equation or a function in its function notation will help us na mas maintindihan ba or mas maging obvious kung ano yung gusto nating mangyari when we are trying to evaluate it. So, to evaluate a function, let's say you are given a value of your x. To evaluate it, isubstitute lang natin yung value ng x natin. So, for example, you have this function, f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. Now, you are given a function, you are given a value of x na gagamitin natin to evaluate this function. So, in this case, that is x is equal to negative 3. Now, ang gagawin lang natin is lahat ng x, papalitan natin ng negative 3. So, ang kakalabasan na equation natin will be this one. We have f of negative 3, yung x na to, pinalitan natin ng negative 3, is equal to 2 times negative 3 squared minus 5 times negative 3 plus 3. Now, we just have to compute. Napakadali na nito. So, we will have 2 times negative 3 squared, that's 9. Plus negative 5 times negative 3, that's 15, plus 3, that's 3. So, we will have 36. So, therefore, f of negative 3 natin is equal to 36. So, ganun tayo mag-evaluate ng function. O kapag yung naiba yung value ng x, o ganun lang, papalitan lang natin siya. Now, also sometimes, hindi lang numeral or numeric number yung nilalagay natin dito. Pwede na instead of negative 3 or just a constant, ang isa-substitute natin dyan is, for example, a term or another variable. So that is also possible. Yan. Let's try to look at these examples. Again, you can pause the video and pwedeng sagutan na natin siya. Yan. So for number 1, we are asked to get f of 2. So f of 2 natin, therefore, will just be equal to this function, tas papalitan natin lahat ng x ng 2. So for this one, di na natin isusulat, kumbaga i-mental na lang natin because it's easy. We have for f of 2, that is equal to 2 squared plus 6 times 2 minus 11. So this is 2 squared is 4 plus 12 minus 11. So therefore, that's 4 plus 12, 16 minus 11. So f of 2 natin is equal to 5. So that is our f of 2. Next, we have f of 10. So for f of 10, ganun lang din yung gagawin natin. Oops, sorry. And for f of 10, for f of 10, substitute lang natin yung x with negative 10. So ang f of 10 natin, this is equal to 10, negative 10 pala. Negative 10 squared plus 6 times negative 10 minus 11. So we will have 100 minus 60 minus 11. So yung f of negative 10 natin will be equal to 29. Yan. Next, for number 3, katulad nung sinabi ko kanina, pwede na hindi another variable yung i-substitute natin or yung pinapa-evaluate sa atin is not a number. In this case, instead of a number, we have a variable t. So, ganun lang din. Lahat ng x, papalitan natin ng t. So, if that's the case, we will have f of t is equal to t squared plus 6t minus 11. And that is our answer already. Kasi nakasimplify naman siya. Next, last is f of t minus 3. So, this time around, hindi lang basta variable, no? It's an actual term. So, ang gagawin lang natin, lahat ng x, papalitan natin ng t minus 3. So, for this one, let's try to solve f of t minus 3. This is equal to x squared natin will be t minus 3 squared plus 6 times t minus 3 minus 11. So, let's expand this one. We have t squared minus 60 plus 9. Tapos, this is plus 60 minus 18 minus 11. So, this one, we can cancel yung negative 60 saka yung plus 60. So, we will arrive at t squared plus 9 minus 18 minus 11. So, this is negative 9. So, we will have t squared is equal t squared minus 20. So, that is f of t minus 3. So, that is how we evaluate functions. Yan. Next naman, na discuss natin are the roots of functions. So, ano ba yung root of a function? So, a root of a function daw, this is nothing more than a number at which the function is 0. So, di ba, we have variables, we have the variables in our function. Now, if we equate that function to 0 and we find the value of those variables, that is the root ng function natin. So, that is defined as the root of our function. So, therefore, ang gagawin lang natin is i-equate natin yung f of x natin into 0. Now, why is this important? Because in calculus, marami tayong beses na maghahanap tayo ng roots ng mga functions natin. So, medyo madali lang to. Proceed na tayo agad sa isang example. So, ito daw, determine the roots of f of t is equal to 9t cubed minus 18t squared plus 60. So, ito, kailangan ma-familiar tayo ng konti, no? Ma-review natin ng konti yung algebra natin. So, kapag nakita natin tong problem, dapat alam na natin agad ilan yung roots natin and how do we solve for our roots. So, in this case, makikita natin that the degree of our function is cube, di ba? Kasi yung t natin, naka-raise siya sa 3. So, kung ganun yung case, we also have 3 roots for that variable t. So, meaning, ang hinahanap nating value ng t dito, 3. No? Because the degree is 3. So, for this one, what we can do is, yun nga, we need to solve for 90, we need to solve for the values of t when f of t is equal to 0. So, that is the first thing that we need to do. Equate natin yung function natin into 0. So, ang kakalabasan nun, we have 9t cubed minus 18t squared plus 60 is equal to 0. So, ito ngayon yung kinalabasan. Now, we just have to find the value of t. O, using our knowledge in algebra, the best way to solve this is i-factor out muna natin yung common na factor nila. So, we will arrive at, if we factor out 3t from the whole equation, we will have 3t times 3t squared minus 60 plus 2 is equal to 0. Now, this is a product. So, therefore, pwede pa natin silang paghiwalayin into 3t is equal to 0 and 3t squared minus 60 plus 2 is equal to 0. Now, it will be easier na to solve for our roots. For this one, medyo madali. Why? Because it's very obvious that our t from this equation is just equal to 0 because the whole equation divide mo sa 3 will have 0 over 3 and that is just equal to 0. Now, for this one, kailangan natin mag-effort. Because still, itong equation na to class or itong itong polynomial natin na to, naka-raise siya sa 2. So, from this expression, dalawang value ng t yung makukuha natin. Now, ano yung gagamitin natin to solve this one? So, algebra pa din. Since this is a quadratic equation, we can use the quadratic formula. So, yung quadratic formula naman natin, that is just negative b plus minus square root of ano to? 4ac b squared. Mali pala ito. Our formula is plus minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is our quadratic formula. So, i-apply lang natin siya doon sa equation natin. Remember that the general formula of a polynomial or of a quadratic formula is a x squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So, yan yung pagbabasihan natin. And from our previous na slide, ito yung equation natin. So, that's 3t squared, copyahin ko lang, 3t squared minus 60 plus 2 is equal to 0. Tama ba yung kopya ko? Yan, 3t squared minus 60 plus 2 is equal to 0. So, in this case, a natin is 3, b natin is negative 6, and c natin is 2. Now, we substitute that to our quadratic formula, and we will arrive at this expression. So, that is negative 6, this is our b, plus minus square root of b squared, that's negative 6 squared, minus 4ac, that's 3, yung a, and then 2 yung c natin, over 2a. So, that's 2 times 3. We simplify this, we will arrive at 6 plus minus square root of 12 over 6. So, we can further simplify this. So, gawin natin 6, since sa 12, pwede natin itong i-factor out at magkaroon tayo ng perfect square dyan. So, we have pinactor out natin yung 12. We will have 6 plus minus square root of 4 times 3. Yung 4 is perfect square, so pwede natin siyang ilabas. We will arrive at 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 3 over 6. Now, pwede nating i-cancel yung 2. Divide the whole equation by 2, and we will arrive at 3 plus or minus square root of 3 over 3. So, actually, okay na to. So, pero if you want to further simplify, pwede nating ipaghiwalay pa sila. But I suggest, okay na tong equation na to. Why? Because di ba in algebra, masasabi natin or we prefer na wala tayong radical doon sa denominator. So, okay na to actually. So, pwede na to na. Ito na yung sagot natin. So, now, sabihin nun, our value of x, we have two values of x, that is 3 plus square root of 3 over 3 and 3 minus square root of 3 over 3. So, yun na ngayon, hindi pala xt. So, that is now, kumpleto na natin yung roots natin. So, therefore, for this equation or for this function, our three roots are, we have t is equal to 0, t is equal to 3 plus square root of 3 over 3, and t is equal to 3 minus square root of 3 over 3. Ayan. So, that is our roots. So, yun. Very simple and review lang naman kasi to. Tsaka kung napansin nyo, the problem I chose din is yung may quadratic equation para kahit pa paano ma-refresh tayo how to find the roots. Yeah. Next naman na i-discuss natin is the domain and the range. So, sabihin ko na lang yung definition, no? When we say domain, this is the possible values of x. Now, given a function f of x, the domain is the possible values of x. In short, yung set x mo, di ba? Yung set x natin, may mga members siya, and yung members niya is yung x din, or small letter x, din i-denote natin as small letter x. That is your domain. Now, yung range naman natin is the possible values of your f of x. So, in short, x, ang domain natin are the x's, and yung range natin is yung value kapag in-evaluate mo siya. So, for example, in our problem kanina, this one, itong 2 na to, this is your domain, and the set of all possible values of your f of x kapag nag-substitute ka ng value ng domain will be your range. So, yun nga lang, when we say domain in range, hindi siya just one single value. It's a range, no? It's an interval. So, pwedeng halimbawa, for your domain, it could be the set of all real numbers from negative infinity to positive infinity. Now, to make that clear, let's try to apply it in problem. We have these examples. Try nating hanapin ano yung domain and yung range ng bawat functions na to. So kapag hinahanap natin yung domain in range, the easiest na pwede nating hanapin usually is yung domain muna. Yung range, medyo complicated na yan hanapin. Depende sa klase ng function na meron tayo. So for number 1, ito medyo madali. No? If we will try to look for the domain, ano kaya yung interval or all of the positive values of our x? This is a very simple function. Diba? So, linear lang siya, tas 5x minus 3 lang. So, in this case, limited ba yung pwedeng lagay natin na value ng x? So, hindi. Diba? Kasi you can substitute any value dito sa x natin na to. So, therefore, yung range natin, or I mean, yung domain natin is from negative, yung x natin ay can be from negative infinity to positive infinity. That is the range of that is the domain of our function. Now, ano naman yung range natin? Na yung range natin are all possible values of f of x. So, similar din with this one because you can think of a value of x that can, kumbaga na kapag in-evaluate natin, it can be any value of y then or f of x natin. So, therefore, yung range natin is also from negative infinity to infinity. Because kahit na anong number yung ipalit mo dito, no? Kahit na anong ilagay mo na value, anong gusto mong makuha na value ng f of x, pwede mong makuha yan by substituting the right value of x. So therefore, the range is negative infinity to positive infinity. Next, this one is a little bit tricky. So we have number 2, we have g of t is equal to the square root of 4 minus 70. Now, tingnan muna natin again, domain muna tayo. Will our domain be limited? Given na ito yung equation natin or ito yung function natin? Well, yes. Why? Because of this radicand. The equation is a radical. So, ibig sabihin kasi niyan, hindi pwede tayo basta-basta magsalpak ng value ng t because kapag nagsalpak tayo ng maling value ng t, may tendency na maging imaginary yung number natin or magkuha tayo ng square root of a negative number. Diba? So, let's say for example, ang nilagay kong value ng t is positive 1. Dito na lang. If yung nilagay kong value ng t is positive 1, we will have this term, we will have a square root of a negative number. That's negative 3. Kapag t is equal to 1. Ano ba yung square root ng negative 3? That's imaginary. So, therefore, limited lang yung pwede nating ilagay na value ng ating t. Now, ano yung value ng t na pwede nating ilagay? O, tingnan lang natin dito. Ano ba yung ano lang yung pwedeng maging, pwede nating i-square root? So, that is only 0 and all positive numbers. So, therefore, yung range ng, yung t natin or yung domain natin ay dapat yung value ng t natin will not make itong nasa loob ng radicand natin na negative. So, in that case, yung domain natin or yung pwede natin gamitin na value ng t is from negative infinity to 4 over 7. Because at 4 over 7, makikita natin yung term na to will be equal to 0. So, at 4 over 7, this term will be equal to 0. Now, kapag naman negative yung value na nilagay natin, yung term na to will always be positive. Diba? Kasi negative 7 times any negative number, positive yung makukuha natin. Or any number smaller than 4 over 7, hindi magiging negative yung term na to. So, that is why limited yung domain natin dito. And that is from negative infinity to 4 over 7. Because at t greater than 4 over 7, magiging negative yung term na to. And what we will have is an imaginary number. So now that we have found the domain na, ano naman yung range? So syempre, yung range natin will also be limited because limited nga yung mismong domain natin. So ano yung possible value ng domain natin? Then we will start, syempre, at the interval of your domain. And that is at 4 over 7. Now at 4 over 7, the value of your g of t is just equal to 0. And then, at any value lower than 4 over 7, it will approach positive infinity already. So that is why our range for number 2 is 0, yung pinakamababang possible na value ng y, papunta sa positive infinity. Because at any negative number or number smaller than 4 over 7 na substitute natin sa t, pataas lang ng pataas yung value ng g of t natin. So that is why, ayun, ang range natin is 0 to infinity. Next, we have number 3, that is f of z is equal to z minus 6 minus 3. Now for this one, ito ang ibig sabihin nito is absolute value. No? So sabi ko kanina kailangan ma-review natin yung mga past mathematics natin. So meaning na absolute value, any number or kahit ano yung term mo dito, if we evaluate this, magiging positive siya. So tatanggalin natin yung sign niya. So kung ganun yung case, wala tayong restrictions when it comes to the domain. Pwede na yung value ng z natin is from negative infinity to infinity. Hindi yun makaka-apekto doon sa domain natin. Kasi wala tayong malalabag, hindi tayo magkakaroon ng radicand, hindi tayo magkakaroon ng division by zero, yung mga ganung bagay ba. So since hindi siya factor, then we can substitute any value of z from negative infinity to positive infinity. Now, ang tanong is yung range natin. Will our range be affected? Well, definitely. Why? Because may limit lang kung ano, because of this absolute value na term natin, there will be a limit sa kung ano lang yung pwedeng maging value ng f of z natin. So, to be specific, kasi di ba at z is equal to 0, you will have negative 6 minus 3, and then we can change the value of, let's say, ang z natin is negative 3 also. Kung negative 3 yon, magiging positive pa rin siya. So, limited lang yung value na magiging f of z natin. So, if that is the case, our range is limited. Now, ano yung range natin? Bale, so tingnan lang natin tong term na to kasi ito naman yung reason kung bakit nalilimit yung range natin. So, what is the smallest possible value of this term? So, the smallest possible value of this term is 0. Bakit 0? Kasi syempre, naka-absolute value siya. Kahit na ang gawin natin dito, ang i-substitute natin is negative 3. So, that will be negative 9, no? Negative 9. Kaso, naka-absolute value. So, that's still positive 9. So, mas malaki pa rin siya. So, therefore, the smallest value that we can get is 0. Now, at this term is equal to 0, ano yung smallest possible value of your f of z? That is 0 minus 3. So, that is why ang range natin is from negative 3 to positive infinity. Next, we have g of x is equal to 8. So, actually, isa to sa pinakamadali. So, this is a constant function kasi. Why? Because it's equal to a constant. The function is equal to a constant. So, kung constant siya, therefore, you can substitute any value of x. Because for this function, kumbaga at g of x is equal to 8. If we substitute any value of x, that's like g of 1, that's also equal to 8. G of 2 is also equal to 8. So, imagine niyo na lang, meron dyang polynomial or meron dyang variable x that is raised to 0. And alam naman natin, kahit na any number raised to 0 will just be equal to 0 also. So, that is why, ang range lang natin dito will just be 8. Because regardless kung ano, from negative infinity to positive infinity, yung isa-substitute natin na value ng x, it will always be equal to 8 lang. So, that is our range. Yeah. Next, we have this equation, h of x or function, h of x is equal to 2x squared plus 12x plus 5. And so for this one, kailangan, ayun nga, mag-review ulit tayo ng lessons natin from specifically analytic geometry. Ayan. So, kung titingnan natin yung format ng equation natin, it's a quadratic equation. Tapos yung quadratic equation na to is, ayun, meron siya mga coefficients. So we have negative 2x squared plus 12x plus 5. So for this one, wala rin tayong restrictions when it comes to the domain. But we will have restrictions doon sa range natin. Now, papaano or saan manggagaling yung restrictions doon sa range natin? So, kung babalikan natin yung analytic geometry natin, this quadratic equation is actually the equation of a parabola. Diba? And ang parabola natin, ang itsura niya is if this is your Cartesian plane, your parabola is, depende kung saan siya nag-open. In this case, yung coefficient ng x squared natin is negative 2. So kung ganun yung case, ibig sabihin yung parabola natin na to will open pababa. So therefore, if we visualize the graph will look something like this. Pag ganyan. Diba? So kung ganyan yung case, tapos hinahanap natin yung value ng h of x natin, which is basically our y. This is your y-axis. Yung value ng y mo will be limited from this point, diba, papunta sa negative infinity. So therefore, limited yung range natin. And because of this limitation, what we need to do is we need to find this point. Now, ano ba yung tawag sa point na to? This is the vertex. So, ang kailangan natin gawin is find the value of our vertex. Now, how do we find the value of our vertex? So, formula lang naman to in your analytic geometry, di ba? The x natin at our vertex is equal to ano nga yung formula? Negative b over 2a. So that is our formula for the vertex. Now, pag na-solve na natin yung value ng x, we just solve for the value of y, and then that is this point na to. So, dun na magsisimula yung range natin going to negative infinity. So, let's try to do that. Clear ko muna yung aking slide. So, wala kayo matanggal. Ayan. So, let's try to do that. Substitute natin, no? Let's first try to find the value of x. X natin is equal to negative b over 2a. So, that is negative 12 over a na 2 times ang a natin is negative 2. So, this is negative 12 over negative 4. So, yung x natin at the vertex is 3. So, now we just have to find the value of y kasi range yung hinahanap natin, di ba? So, at x is equal to 3, let's try to find the value of y, which is our h of x. So, with that, we will have y natin, sige, h of x na lang. H of x natin, ayaw bumura. Yan, h of x natin is equal to negative 2 times x squared natin, that's 3 squared, plus 12 times 3 plus 5. So, ang kakalabasan natin ngayon dyan is h of x natin or yung value ng y natin is 23. So, therefore, in our Cartesian plane, yung vertex natin is at point 3, 23. Now, itong 23 na to, hindi na pwedeng tumaas dyan yung value ng y natin. Because, yun nga, it's a parabola and yung vertex is the highest point of a parabola na negative yung coefficient ng x squared natin. So, therefore, our range for number 5 is from negative infinity papuntang 23. So, yun yung range natin. Ayan. Again, for this one, the definition of domain and range is very simple. What complicated? Itong pagsosolve natin or paghanap natin ng domain and range are the theories, no, with our pre-calculus, no, days, kumbaga. So, kaya kailangan, yun nga, if kailangan natin mag-review ng algebra natin, ng calculus natin, ng pre-calculus natin, very important, analytic geometry, etc. So, kailangan i-familiarize natin yung mga sarili natin sa mga yun. Now, even trigonometric identities and trigonometry, so kailangan natin sila for calculus 1. Yan. Now, this is our last topic for functions, and that is function composition. So, in mathematics, function composition is the pointwise application of one function to the result of another to produce a third function. So, ito, di ba kanina nag-evaluate tayo ng function? Ang sinasubstitute natin is a variable or a numeral or a number. So, this time around, instead of substituting a variable or a number, ang sinasubstitute natin is another function. And, syempre, kapag sinubstitute natin yung another function na yun, we will create another function. Or we'll be able to produce a third function. So, by definition, let's say, for example, meron kang dalawang function, f of x, and g of x. We can define a composite function. So, maggagawa tayo ng another function let's say h of x, and that is equal to the combination of f of x and g of x. To be specific, f of g of x. And let's say another function, h of x, k of x, that is equal to g of f of x, wherein h of x natin sa k of x natin, this is often not equal. So, hindi lagi na yung f of g of x ay equal sa g of f of x. So, we can also express this sa ganitong notation. Again, if we have f of x and g of x, we can express it, a function composition, we can express it in this manner. So, h of x, tapos f, and then this operator na bilog. So, f of, ang ibig sabihin nito, kumbaga f, and then this operator g of x, this is also equivalent to f g of x. And for k of x naman, so it's g, this operator, f of x is equal to g f of x. So take note na for composition function, it matters kung sino yung nauuna. So nauna yung f kesa sa g, nauna dito yung g kesa sa f. So that matters. The placement of kung sino yung nauna, kung yung first function or second function ba, it affects your composite function. Now, para mas maintindihan natin, i-apply natin siya into a problem or into an example. So we have two functions, that's f of x is equal to 3x squared minus x plus 10, and another function, g of x, that is equal to 1 minus 20x. So ano yung gagawin natin dito? So we will just substitute. For number 1, ang pinapahanap sa atin is f of g of 10. Now, how do we evaluate this? Now, the easiest way to evaluate this is evaluate muna natin yung function na nasa loob ng parenthesis natin. And then, pag nakuha na natin yung value nung nasa loob, gamitin natin yon to evaluate the whole function. So, in this case, if we will try to solve for number 1, the ideal way to solve this is first find g of 1 over 10. Now, kapag nakuha na natin yung g of 1 over 10, tsaka natin yung isubstitute sa f of x natin. So, let's try that for number 1. Try muna natin, evaluate g of 1 over 10. So, we have g of x is equal to 1 minus 20x. Let's try to find the value of g of 1 over 10. So, to find that, we just need to substitute 1 over 10 sa x. So, we will have equal to 1 minus 20 times yung x natin is 1 over 10. So, therefore, we will have g of 1 over 10 is equal to 1 minus 20 over 10, that's 2. So, g of 1 over 10 natin is equal to negative 1. Now, this negative 1, ngayon yung isa-substitute natin dito sa f of x natin. Doing so, we will have f of g of 1 over 10 is equal to, since nakuha na natin yung g of 1 over 10 and that's negative 1, we will have 3 times negative 1 squared minus negative 1 plus 10. So, we will arrive at 3 plus 1 plus 10. So, we will have 14. Hindi ko pala nilagay yung sagot. So, therefore, yung f of g of 1 over 10 natin, that is equal to 14. So, that is for number 1. Next, for number 2, we have g of f of x. So, for this one, wala tayong evaluate na value for our f of x. So, what we can do is just substitute itong 3x squared minus x plus 10 directly sa g of x natin. So, for number 2, ang gagawin lang natin is direct na substitute natin siya. So, we have g of f of x natin is equal to 1 minus 20 times yung x natin, papalitan natin ng f of x, which is 3x squared minus x plus 10. So, let's simplify. We will have 1 is equal to negative 60x squared plus 20x minus 200. So, therefore, g of f of x natin is equal to negative 60x squared plus 20x minus 199. So, this is our answer for number 2. Yan. So that is it for our discussion with functions. So after nito, pwede na kayong magsagot ng mga exercises.